Welcome back to Miniature Game Montage, and welcome to our fourth episode of Kings of War from the Lone Wolf Grand Tournament of 2021. Today we're at the top table in a matchup between Steven's Ratkin and Dustin's Empire of Dust. These two play each other often and are familiar with all the tricks, but the stakes are high in this one. As you know, neither player won the tournament overall, but they have worked their way up to the top table against 53 other participants. As a forewarning, I am trying to narrate what happened in this game, so if something looks wrong, it's probably just me misinterpreting the moves. Let's take a look at Steven's Ratkin seen in our last game. The Ratkin has a regiment of warriors and 2 hordes of warriors. The hordes have plague pots, 3 troops of claw shots, a regiment of tunnel runners with brew of sharpness, 3 weapon teams, 2 mutant rat fiends, 1 broodmother with conjurer and blight staff, Mother Kryza, and Skudkazluk Demon Spawn. The list is 18 unit strength and 2290 points. Dustin's Empire of Dust has a regiment of skeleton warriors, a horde of skeleton spearmen with blade of slashing, a legion of chariots with caterpillar potion, a horde of enslaved guardians with brew of sharpness, 2 bone giants, 1 monolith, 2 undead worms, a soul snare, an idol of Shobek, and Sebek Ray the Accursed. The list clocks in at 19 unit strength and 2300 points. Today's scenario is flags over Texas. There will be 6 scoring zones divided evenly across our 6x4 layout, and the army that controls more zones at the end of the game will win. Players will add up points based on the number of units they have in each zone, only allowing them to score in one zone if they overlap with another using the majority of the unit footprint. Each controlled zone gives a player 4 victory points. If a zone is contested with the same number of units, 1 point will be awarded to each player. There will be 3 secondary objectives in this game, plus 2 points for controlling the center zone on your opponent's side of the table, plus 1 for controlling the center zone on your side of the table, and plus 1 if your opponent does not control any zones on your side of the table. We're ready to get down to it. Turn 1 is coming up. Turn 1 underway, warriors moving up to form the center, rat fiend along the flank, more warriors moving up beside them with the rat fiend moving forward. That first rat fiend is going to pivot slightly backwards or move slightly backwards to reposition. The broodmother will come up behind him. And then we're going to go over to the weapons teams. All of them are going to move forward, and the long ranger, which is special for this tournament, he will move up as well, followed by Mother Kryza. Tunnel runners will move, as well as some more warriors on the left flank, followed by the demon spawn. Then in the shooting phase, the demon spawn will let loose a lightning bolt at the chariots. It's 5 shots, needing 4s. And dice hit the deck here, and it looks like only 2 of these are going to hit. They will wound on 3s with piercing 1, and that'll be 2 wounds. Then claw shots, one of those is going to shoot into the chariots as well, and this will be 5 attacks. They will hit on 5s. 2 of these will go through, piercing 2. That's 2 more wounds. A lightning bolt cracks out. All 5 of these will miss. And then we have claw shots, 10 of these going out, and they will hit on 5s. Results in only 2 hits, targeting the idol of Shobek here, and then needs 3s with piercing 2. Only 1 wound. That wound will iron resolve off. We move over to the Empire of Dust, where chariots begin moving up the right flank. They're followed by an undead worm moving forward as well. We do have another worm that moves here as the skeleton warriors do fall back. This other undead worm, hard to fit him on the base next to the other one. And then we have the monolith, which will adjust, and then followed by a bone giant that will move. The idol of Shobek is also going to move. The bone giant will move up again as well. And then we've got the soul snare that are going to move, as well as the lone wolf making a dash across the board towards the middle. Continuing with moves, Skeleton Spearmen, we've got a horde here moving up the center. Enslaved Guardians are going to move, as is Sebek the Accursed, moving up behind them. And then we're going to move into the shooting phase, where a surge will be cast from the Monolith onto the Warriors. There'll be 8 dice here. That results in 5 total hits, and they surge forward. A heal 5 from Sebek onto the Chariots needs 4s. Only gets 2. It does get to re-roll due to Reanimator being close by, and still results in 2 coming off the Chariots. The Soul Snare will then cast Drain Life onto a weapons team. 9 shots, hits on 4s. There'll be 3 total hits, and then wounding on 5s. There's only 1 wound. Defense 5 on those guys. They are wavered. And then we go back to the Chariots. They will shoot with the short bows, 18-inch range at warriors on the left flank. 10 shots, hits on 5s. That results in 6 hits, and 3 of these will wound, needing 4s. And final nerve checks are coming out. Everything is going to be good. That brings turn 1 to a close, and we will move back over to the Ratkin for the top of turn 2. And the Demon Spawn will move first. He is backing up, is providing rallying 2 to nearby units. The Warriors are going to step back as well, being mindful of charge range. They are still within the Chariot's charge range. The weapons teams in the center are going to move forward, pivoting so slightly. Mother Kryza is going to move up, and another weapons team is going to shuffle over just a little. The Lone Ranger pops forward, and the other weapons team that's wavered, it is nimble, so he does get this pivot here, and then that weapons team is going to back up. The tunnel runners adjust slightly while warriors move forward. Forming up the center, we then have rat fiends that are moving up behind these warriors. The Broodmother is going to move forward as well, and another rat fiend over on the right flank moving up as well. Shooting phase opens up with claw shots into the lone wolf, hitting on 6s due to cover. Only 1 goes through, wounding on 3s, and that will do a wound. More claw shots coming in. These are hitting on 5s, and 1 will go through, and that will also result in a wound. The Broodmother cracks a Blight Staff at the Lone Wolf, needing 5s. 2 of these will go through, and then it's piercing 1, so 4s are needed. That will result in 2 more wounds, taking him to 4. And then his Lone Ranger is going to shoot at the Bone Giant. Will get 5 shots with Elite, hitting on 3s. And do get to re-roll 1s here with Elite. Results in 4 wounds. It's piercing 2, so wounding on 3s results in 3 wounds. Weapons teams will continue to fire at the Bone Giants. 10 shots coming out. This one will need 5s due to cover. Will result in 4 hits. And piercing 1 will need 4s in order to wound. Looks like they're going to get 2 wounds. Another weapons team will fire at the Bone Giant as well. 10 more shots, this time hitting on 4s. That results in 6 hits, needing 4s to wound. Only 2 more wounds are going to come through, taking him to 7, however, on his total wounds. A lightning bolt then cracks across, this one coming, I believe, from Mother Kryza. 5 attacks results in 4 hits, needing 4s, and then it's going to result in 4 wounds, taking him to 11 total. And continuing to pick on that Bone Giant, we've got more claw shots coming in, hitting on 5s due to cover. Will be 5 total shots, and there will be 2 hits that go through, and then wounding on 3s with piercing 2 results in a wound. That does take him now to 12. And then the Demon Spawn will crack a lightning bolt at the Chariots. That's 5 shots, hits on 4s, results in 2 hits, and then 3s. That will result in 1 wound. And the all-important nerve check on the Bone Giant, he is going to roll up a 4, and that's only going to be 15 out of 18. Bone Giant is just fine. Nerve on the Lone Wolf is going to be good as well, and the Chariots, of course, are fine. So moving over to the Empire of Dust for the bottom of turn 2. Empire of Dust turn 2, and the Chariots are going to take a charge into the Warriors. They are going to be hindered. And we've then got the Undead Worms. They are going to move up as well. The Bone Giant is going to charge into a weapons team. The Idol of Shobik is going to move up as well to the edge of the terrain. Skeleton Spearmen are going to move up, followed by the Enslaved Guardians. Sebek the Accursed is going to move as well. The Soul Snare pushes forward. The Lone Wolf will charge into the Warriors, and the Bone Giant here is going to back up. The Monolith is going to move, and it is going to surge the Idol of Shobek into the Warriors. So the Monolith connects on 5 of these, surging the Idol forward. Sebek the Accursed will then cast a heal 5 onto the Bone Giant, 5 dice going out, needing 4s, and that will result in all 5 peeling wounds off, and he also got a wound back from Iron Resolve. The Soul Snare then casts a Drain Life into the weapons team. That's 9 dice going out, hitting on 4s, results into 6 hits, and then needs 4s to wound, 2 total wounds, and that will go onto the Bone Giants as well. A nerve test is taken on the weapons team, and they become wavered, and then we move over to combats where the chariots are going to get 20 attacks, and they will hit on 5s because they were hindered. Results in 8 hits, and then they need 3s to wound with Thunderous Charge 1, and that results in 5 total wounds, and that brings them up to 8 in total. They roll an 8 to begin with, which would be a kill, but they're getting rallying. So when the Inspiring is rolled out, that 7 is not going to get it done. We then move to the Lone Wolf. He is going to attack the Warriors. 6 attacks. He does have Pathfinder, so doesn't care about coming through the terrain. Results in 5 hits, and he is going to get 4 wounds with Vicious, getting to re-roll 1s to wound. And it looks like he is going to get Dread, which takes them to a 5 in total. Nothing happens here. We then take the Bone Giant. He's going to attack the weapons team. Just going to roll a nerve test here, and they are going to be off the board. They are getting Inspiring from Kryza, but that does not help in this situation. The Idol of Shobek, we're going to do the same thing as he is attacking another weapons team. Just going to take a straight nerve roll here, and they are off the board as well. This wraps up turn 2 as the Bone Giant slowly returning back to full strength. The Empire of Dust inflicting a lot of damage onto the Ratkin. Weapons teams are off the board, and some of the Warriors over on the other flank have sustained some pretty heavy damage. Turn 3 coming up, back to the Ratkin. Ratkin turn 3, the Warriors are going to move up. This is going to give the Rat Fiend room to charge into the Lone Wolf. We've then got the Broodmother who is going to move. The Warriors are going to disengage and shuffle to the right. This is going to make room for the Tunnel Runners to charge into Shobek. Kryza is then going to charge into the Bone Giant, and this triggers Cloak of Death on the Giant as well as the Lone Wolf. We've got a weapons team that's going to shuffle and a Demon Spawn that will move. Then we've got the Lone Ranger. He's going to move, and the Rat Fiend is going to move as well. We're going to get the Broodmother casting the Blight Staff onto the Bone Giant. That'll be 5 shots, hitting on 4s. That'll result in 2 hits and 2 wounds. And then we've got Claw Shots times 2 that will shoot at the Bone Giants. Will be 10 shots in total. These guys will hit on 5s due to cover. That's going to result in 4 hits and then 3 wounds at piercing 2. These guys are defense 5. So 3 total wounds going on to that Bone Giant. We've got more Claw Shots that will shoot at the Bone Dragon, and that would get 5 shots as well. Hits on 4s. 4 of these are going to hit, and then he's defense 4. Piercing 2 takes it down to 2s. It'll result in 3 wounds. We then got a Demon Spawn that will crack a Lightning Bolt at the Worm, and that'll be 5 total shots. 4 of these will hit on 4s, and then needing 3s, piercing 1 results in 1 wound. And then the Lone Ranger will shoot at the Worm as well, 5 shots that hits on 4s. That'll be 2 hits, and then that will be a total of 2 more wounds. So he's got 6 wounds in total. All the nerve checks that are going out are going to be good, so we are going to move into combat. All right, first up, we've got the Rat Fiend launching an attack into the Lone Ranger, 10 dice going out, hitting on 3s, and he's going to get 8 total hits. And then he is going to be crushing 2, so hitting on 3s, or wounding on 3s, that is going to be 6. Reroll a few for Vicious, 6 in total. And the nerve check on the Lone Wolf, he is going to be wavered. Next up, we have Mother Kryza. She's going to attack the Bone Giant. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 2 of these will go through, and then she will need force in order to wound. That will be a total of 2 wounds. The nerve is good, and he will get 1 wound back due to Iron Resolve. The Tunnel Runners will then attack Shobik. They have the Brew of Sharpness, so they hit with 24 attacks, hitting on 3s, and he is going to land a ton of hits. And then he'll be wounding on 4s. This guy has a defense of 6, and it's going to do 9 total wounds. He needs 8 twice in order to pop the unit, and he gets 8 once. He re-rolls again due to Inspiring and misses. Going to use his Lone Wolf re-roll here, re-rolling out 1 more die, and he gets just enough to pop the Idol of Shobik, and that's going to wrap up the turn for the Ratkin. We're moving over to the Empire of Dust for the bottom of 3. Turn 3 moves getting underway as the Undead Worm charges into a weapons team. The Bone Giant is going to charge into one of the Rat Fiends. Another Bone Giant is going to move forward. The Lone Wolf is going to disengage and move back while the Soul Snare shuffles, and the Monolith is going to move as well. We've got another Undead Worm that is going to move. The Soul Snare is actually going to reposition, and that's going to allow the Spearman to reposition as well. Guardians are going to charge Mother Kryza, and Sobek is going to move up to support the rest of the units. The Monolith is then going to cast a Surge in the shooting phase onto the Bone Giant, and that is going to throw him into combat. The Soul Snare then casts Drain Life 9 onto one of the Rat Fiends, needing 4s. That's going to cause 5 hits, and then 3s to wound. That does 3 wounds and heals off of one of his friendly units. Sebek the Accursed is going to cast a heal with 1 reroll onto the Bone Giant, 5 dice, needing 4s. All of these but 1 are good, so we're turning units back up to strength. And then we are going to go ahead and check nerve. First off on the Warriors, and they're going to be just roll for nerve here, as they're not going to be able to withstand those chariots. They are off once and off twice. And then we're going to go ahead and take nerve on the weapons team here in the middle that was charged by one of the Undead Worms, as he's not going to be able to survive this attack, and rolling out once, and that's all that it takes. The weapons team is off the board. We're then going to roll nerve on Kryza. We did roll this out, but I didn't show you the footage. The Enslaved Guardians absolutely butchered Mother Kryza, and rolling nerve for her, she is going to be off the board as well, getting popped with Inspiring. Continuing combats, the Bone Giant, the first one, will get d6 plus 6 attacks into the Warriors. That results in 10 total attacks, hitting on 4s. 5 of these go through, and then needing 2s with Crushing 3. That results in 5 wounds, plus Brutal is 6. It rolls out a 6 on the nerve roll. They had 6 wounds on them. That is a 12. They are just fine. The other Bone Giant is attacking the flank of the Rat Fiend. So getting a 1 on the d6, that'll be 7 attacks, but into the flank that's doubled. 14 total, needing 4s, and that's going to result in 9 total hits, and then needing 2s at Crushing 3. That results in 7 wounds, plus Brutal, and that equals a total of 11 total wounds on them. So he rolls out a 7 on the nerve check, but he has Rallying, so this is not going to get it done, and that Rat Fiend will stick around. And diving right into turn 4, the Warriors charge into the Spearman, the Rat Fiend will countercharge the Bone Giant, and the Demon Spawn charges into the Chariots. We've got another Rat Fiend that will pivot while the Broodmother moves, and then the Rat Fiend does get regen, and on a 5-up, he was going to get 4 wounds back. We've also got Radiance that is going to kick off, healing these Warriors around for 1 wound as well. The Claw Shots are going to pivot and move, and then we're going into the shooting phase. The Broodmother casts Drain Life onto the Lone Wolf, gets a reroll for the Conjuring Staff, needing 4s. 3 of these go through, and piercing 1, 4s needed to wound. Results in 2 total wounds, healing back that Rat Fiend. And then shots going on to one of the Undead Worms, the wounded one, 5 more shots. Hitting on 4s, 3 of these go through, and then needing 3s, piercing 1, results in 3 wounds on the worm. The Lone Ranger for the Ratkin will also shoot at that worm, and he gets 5 shots as well. He does have Elite, so rerolling 1s. All 5 of these are going to hit, and then wounding on 2s at piercing 2 is going to result in 4 more wounds. And nerve checks going out first on the Undead Worm, needing a 5. That is a kill, reroll for Inspiring, and it is dead. One of the worms removed off the board. Now a nerve check on the Lone Wolf, and he is gone. Rerolling for Inspiring once more, and also gone. And we are going to switch these two undead worms out because one's a little easier to manage than the other. And we are going to continue now. The Rat Fiend is going to attack the Bone Giant. 10 attacks hitting on 4s. 4 of these will go through, and 3s to wound at crushing 2 results in 3 wounds. The Demon Spawn then attacks the Chariots. 13 attacks going off, hitting on 3s. And that results in 9 total hits. And then needing 2s to wound results in 8 wounds. Tunnel Runners then attack the Bone Giant. 24 attacks coming across, hitting on 3s, results in 19 total hits. They need 4s in order to wound. They get 12, and then we're going to roll for nerve here, and they're going to get popped, re-rolling that out again, and they are off the board. The Bone Giant is clear, and they will reform. Then we move over to the Warriors. They are going to attack the Skeleton Spearmen. 25 attacks. They hit on 5s, and they will result 10 hits. And then wounding on 4s results in 7 wounds. And that brings us to the end of the Ratkin turn. Nothing can be run off the board additionally, but they did have some great luck here, getting rid of the Bone Giant and the Lone Wolf, as well as an Undead Worm, moving back over to the Empire of Dust for the bottom of 4. The Chariots disengage from the Demon Spawn and move. The Worm is also going to move. The Monolith will move as well. And then we've also got Enslaved Guardians that are going to sidestep. The Soul Snare pivots and moves. And Sebek is going to move as well. Moving into the shooting phase, the Monolith will cast Surge onto the Undead Worm. This is 8 or 9 shots, hitting on 4s, but surges him into contact with the Demon Spawn and only needed 3. Sebek then will surge the Enslaved Guardians, 7 of these going out on 4s, and they get into the Tunnel Runner's flank. The Soul Snare then casts Drain Life onto the Rat Fiend. 9 shots hitting on 4s results in 7 hits, and then wounding on 4s results in 5 total wounds. The Worm in the combat phase will then attack the Demon Spawn in the flank. 20 attacks hitting on 4s results in 9 hits, and then needing 2s with crushing 3. 9 total wounds, and 8 is needed to waver on the nerve check, and he does not get it. The Skeletons then attack the Warriors. 30 attacks hitting on 5s. 12 go through. Needing 4s to wound results in 5, and then an 8 on the nerve. That is a 13. That is not good enough to rout these Skeletons. The Bone Giant then attacks D6 plus 6, 10 total attacks going into the Rat Fiend, and he hits on 4s. 6 total hits go through, needing 2s with crushing 3, results in 6 wounds, and 8 is rolled on the nerve, plus 1 for brutal is 14, or brings it to a 15, and then adding 6 for the wounds they have, 21, and he is going to be off the board twice. The Rat Fiend has been popped. We then roll nerve on the Tunnel Runners, and getting a inspiring roll, they are off the board as well. Into turn 4, it's turning into an absolute bloodbath. Going into turn 5, these players are going to be looking to get ready to score points. Turn 5 coming up. And turn 5 will open up with a Rat Fiend charge into the Enslaved Guardians. The Warriors will charge into the Bone Giant. The Broodmother repositions, and the Lone Ranger takes shots at the Chariots. 5 total shots hitting on 3s, results in 3 wounds, and then wounding on 2s with piercing, gets a total of 3 wounds. The claw shots, both of these guys will then fire. They will shoot at the Chariots. 10 total shots between the 2 of them. Hits on 4, and 7 hits go through. Wounds on 2s with piercing 2s, 7 wounds. The Broodmother then casts Drain Life onto the Enslaved Guardians. 5 attacks hitting on 4s. 1 goes through, and then needing 4s to wound, there are no wounds. Going to take nerve on the Chariots, and we're going to re-roll for inspiring, and they are off the board. Into combat, the Rat Fiend will attack the Enslaved Guardians. 10 dice go out, hitting on 3s, 9 of them hit, and then needing 3s to wound with crushing 2 and vicious, so re-rolling 1s to wound, and that will do a total of 8 wounds. Rolling up the nerve check to try to pop this unit, and this would be huge. It is only a 4, and that is not going to do it. The Demon Spawn then attacks the Undead Worm. 13 attacks hitting on 3s. 12 of these go through, and then wounding on 2s here with crushing 3. And he is going to get a total of 7 wounds. So a nerve check will go out. It is a 6. That equals a 13, and that is not going to get it done against this Undead Worm. We've then got the warriors attacking the bone giant, 25 attacks on 6s, and 6 of these go through, wounding on 5s, only 1 wound. The other warriors attacking the skeletons, 25 more attacks on 5s, 14 of these are successful, needing 4s to wound, and they will do 12 total wounds. And we're going to roll for nerve here, and it will be inspiring. The first one is a pop, and the second one is also a pop. The skeleton warriors off the table. A quick reform by those warriors will push us to the bottom of turn 5. The Empire of Dust will see the monolith move, the Soul Snare will move, Sebek the Accursed will move, and then we go right into the shooting phase. Soul Snare casts Drain Life onto the warriors, 9 attacks on 4s, 7 of these are successful, and then they will get 2 total wounds out of this. Next up, Sebek is going to cast a heal onto the Guardians. 5 attacks here, hitting on 4s. 4 of these are good with the Conjuring Staff reroll. And then we look towards the Undead Worm, attacks the Demon Spawn. We are in the combat section, and that will be 10 attacks hitting on 4s. 5 of these go through, and then 2s to wound with Crushing 3 results in 4 wounds. We go to Nerve, and it will be an 8, and then we'll reroll, and it will only be a 7, which is a waiver. And then the Bone Giant attacks, d6 plus 2 will be 8 total attacks, and then he hits on 5s. 3 of these will go through, and then Crushing 3, 2's needed to wound, gets 3 wounds. The nerve check on the warriors are good. The Slave Guardians attack the Rat Fiend with 18 total attacks on 2s, and all 18 hit, and then 2's to wound, 13 wounds. We roll for nerve on these guys, and they are inspired, so re-rolling that back out, and the Rat Fiend is off the board, and that will wrap up turn 5. So heavy casualties being sustained on both sides of the board. Moving to turn 6 with the Ratkin, the warriors will move, and we dive right into the shooting phase as the claw shots, all 3 of them are going to unleash into the Guardians, 15 total shots, hitting on 4s, and 5 of these will go through, and then they wound on 3s with piercing 2, only 2 wounds. The Lone Ranger attacks the same target. He does have elite, so re-rolling 1s, his 5 attacks results in 5 hits, and then wounding on 3s with piercing 2 results in 5 wounds. The Broodmother then hits them with Drain Life, 5 more dice on 4s. That'll be 1 hit, and then 4s required to wound with piercing 1 wound. Puts them on 9 total, so taking a nerve check needs an 8 minimum, and it's going to be popped once, but re-rolling for inspiring, and that is popped twice. The Enslaved Guardians are officially off the board. And the game almost decided at this point as the worm moves to the flank of the demon spawn. The monolith also moves while Steven is taking his combats. The warriors will hit on the bone giant and does 1 wound. The bone giant will then disengage and move. The worm will then get a surge into the flank of the demon spawn, and a surge goes into the bone giant 3 inches. The soul snare will then cast Drain Life on the warriors. That is 9 attacks, hitting on 4s, results 5 hits, and then 3s needed to wound, 4 wounds. The nerve is good, and then we take a nerve on the demon spawn just to wrap that up, and he is going to be popped, re-rolling for inspiring, and he is out of the game. So we do roll up for a turn 7 in this one, and I will quickly show that as this one is all but decided. And back over to the Ratkin, warriors charge into the soul snare, and then we've got the Broodmother will move. Some of these warriors in the back are going to pivot, and then the Lone Ranger in the shooting phase has elite, shoots at the monolith, 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, 5 hits, and then needs 3s to wound, piercing 2, 4 wounds. The Broodmother then hits the Blight Staff into the monolith, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, that's 3 hits, wounds on 4s with piercing 1, re-rolling with vicious. And that's 2 wounds. The claw shots then dump into them as well. 15 shots, hitting on 4s, 11 total hits. Wounding on 3s with piercing 2, 5 wounds. Needs a 6 twice, and he gets it once and again. That unit is popped. The warriors then attack the soul snare with 25 attacks on 6s. They will only get 4 hits here. They wound on 5s. They will get no wounds. And buckets more dice coming out against the War Machine because you get to attack several times against a War Machine. And he is going to need an 11 on the nerve roll ultimately, and he gets it, but it is inspired, so having to re-roll that back out, and the soul snare remains. And back over for the Empire of Dust, one of the undead worms is going to charge into the Lone Ranger. Some of the things are going to move around for points. We do have a surge that goes off trying to get some additional points. The worm will then attack the Lone Ranger and will waver him, and that will bring us to the end of this game. So in the end, as we wrap things up here in turn 7, Stephen H. is going to score 4 points for the scenario and 3 points for objectives, bringing his total to 7. Dustin H. does not get any points in this one, so 7-0 results in a total score of 14-6. Now, while this was the top table, this tournament was played months ago, and as you know, Jeff did win the tournament, but both of these guys did weigh in and battle it out on the top table. It was really fun to watch. Really appreciate both of you guys for letting me film this report and attempt to bring it to life. So again, if you caught any errors in this, it was probably just me misnarrating what happened. Both of these guys played it to the law of the game, and it was very well played indeed. So would like to say thanks so much for watching. Up on the screen, I'm going to post up the 2021 Coffee Supporters Club. Really appreciate your support. And thanks so much. If you happen to like Kings of War, be sure you give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of these, I will certainly look forward to bringing those in the future. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.